So it's finally here, the new Apple silicon-based MacBook Pro. I stayed up until 4 a.m. here in Australia to watch this unveiling live, and it didn't disappoint. In summary, the biggest features are the new updated body design, the Liquid Retina XDR display, the Pro Motion display or 120Hz display, an insane upgrade to the battery life, and ports. There are other little tidbits here and there, like the high fidelity webcam as such, but the upgrade we're all talking about is the processing power of that M1 Pro and M1 Max chipsets. Now, this whole thing with Apple raving on about the presence of ports is kind of weird to me, because I have just moved on my 2015 MacBook Pro, the last series which had all the original ports before they were ditched in a new 2016 design. So it's weird having Apple show off something which they only just took away before. If I was Apple, I'm not so sure I'd be showing off the fact that the ports are back. It's almost like admitting you did something wrong here. And speaking of wrong, what do you think about the new notch? Is this going to be an Apple signature thing going forwards? I've heard a lot of divided opinion on this, and I think it'll eventually go the same way as the Touch Bar and disappear quietly in future models. But I really don't mind it because it's an additional vertical pixel area, so it should only be reserved for Mac OS menu and information. So apps can utilize the full aspect ratio with the Mac OS menu just added on top. As long as it doesn't crop into my workspace, I'm fine. Now, in my opinion, my last laptop, the 2015 Retina, was the perfect workhorse laptop for my professional photography endeavors. Back then, I had maximized the specifications possible at the time, and it cost me around 4,600 Aussie dollars. Today, maximizing the new MacBook Pro is going to cost a hell of a lot more money. Some $9,149 like more money. Double the price of the top tier MacBook Pro I had in 2015. To be fair though, the capabilities of MacBook Pros have gone up considerably over the last 6 years. You can spec more RAM, more SSD, and they're just more expensive. Apple tax. Now, I'm not going to maximize the specifications of the new MacBook Pro. I just can't justify throwing such massive SSD money away when I could use that towards traveling again in a post-COVID world. So I have to make some tough decisions here, like what size, what CPU, RAM, and SSD size do I go for? Firstly, remember there's probably no perfect spec fit for everyone. You could argue 16, 32, or 64 gigs of RAM suits you better, and it's so early days we haven't even had that much real-world testing done on these yet. But I know I'm going to go with the 14-inch this time. I did a lot of traveling before COVID, and every gram I save in weight is helpful. Now, anytime I tether and require a bigger screen for a client, we have an external display anyway. So it's not really required for me to go the bigger unit this time. Plus, you can spec the same components for the 14-inch as the 16. It's no longer tiered. For RAM, I'm going 32 gigabytes. 16 was enough, but this is more future-proofing for what I might need. Regarding cameras, the megapixel race seemed to have plateaued recently, and 100 megapixel Phase 1 files were still fine to edit on my 6-year-old 2015 MacBook Pro with just 16 gigabytes of RAM. So even with 32 gigabytes of RAM on this new machine, it should fly. I spec'd my last laptop with 1TB SSD, and I don't regret that decision. And I'm still going to stick with 1TB again here. I don't find great value in large capacity SSDs based on my workflow. I work on projects locally, but once they're done and dusted, they go off-site. Again, I'll put that extra money towards some new glass. So, M1 Pro or M1 Max? My head says Pro. Even though my Photoshop workflow is mostly processor-heavy tasks, the Pro should be more than enough to do the job. But if I'm going to splurge on something, it might as well be in this option. So my heart says go the M1 Max. It's only 300 Aussie dollars more for the M1 Max with the 24-core GPU, but another $300 more for the 32-core. The total is $4,949 Aussie, including GST. And going based on price, I feel like this is about the sweet spot for me. Now, there are expected shipping delays, but watch for the review when it arrives. To this day, I still firmly believe my 2015 MacBook Pro was the greatest iteration of the MacBook Pro ever. It was the last to have full ports. It had a robust unibody design without crappy keyboards or the touch bar. To this day, I had held off upgrading since, but I hope I've made the right choice investing in the new Apple Silicon update.